Will you be able to afford a gallon of milk for your kids in 6 months if the current spending on the Iran conflict continues? Will your mortgage payment become unaffordable because interest rates are forced to stay high to fund the war? Will you be sitting in a cold house this winter because energy prices in your city have doubled since the blockade began? Will your paycheck buy 2 fewer bags of groceries every week as the government prints more money for munitions? Will you or your family members receive a notice from the Selective Service to fill the gaps in the current troop surge? Will the gas station near your home limit you to 10 gallons per visit if the strategic reserves hit record lows? In this video, I am going to tell you exactly what is going to happen to your life as this war escalates. The current operational cost for the U.S. military in the Persian Gulf is now holding steady at $1.43 billion every single day. Because this expenditure is not covered by the standard defense budget, the Treasury is forced to issue more debt at record high interest rates. This means the government is competing with you for the same pool of available money in the banking system. Because the government is borrowing so much to pay for the war, your local bank will keep your credit card and car loan rates higher for longer. The military is currently facing a strategic challenge known as the Fiscal Siege. Iran is utilizing mass-produced, low-cost assets to force the U.S. to expend its most expensive and limited stockpiles. Every time a U.S. destroyer fires a single interceptor to protect a cargo ship, the taxpayer loses the equivalent of 3 new public libraries. Because these high-end missiles take years to manufacture, the Pentagon is paying a massive premium to accelerate factory production. You will feel this cost when the federal government reduces funding for your local roads and bridges to cover the emergency defense bill. The real danger to your household is not a direct attack, but the economic friction of the Maritime Tollgate. Because the Strait of Hormuz is now a high-risk combat zone, shipping insurance for oil and consumer goods has spiked by 400%. This insurance cost is passed directly to you at the checkout counter of every store you visit. Because 20% of the global energy supply is restricted, the electricity bill for your home will likely increase by 30% by July. You will find that your discretionary income disappears as basic utilities become the largest expense in your monthly budget. The logistics of the war are also draining the domestic supply of critical components like semiconductors and specialized steel. Because the military has priority for these materials, the price of a new car or home appliance will remain out of reach for most families. You will be forced to repair old equipment rather than buy new, slowing down the standard of living you have worked for years to build. The government is currently navigating a policy of strategic resource depletion to avoid an immediate national emergency. Because they are draining the Strategic Petroleum Reserve to keep gas prices below $7, the nation has no buffer for a second crisis. You will realize the true cost of this war the moment a secondary conflict or a natural disaster hits the American mainland. Without a reserve, the gas pumps will run dry within 48 hours of any major domestic distribution hiccup. Because the military is understaffed for a protracted multi-front engagement, the talk of a draft is moving from theory to administrative planning. You will notice more aggressive recruitment tactics in your community and a quiet update to the Selective Service registration systems. This is not a sign of immediate mobilization, but it is a preparation for a scenario where the volunteer force can no longer sustain the line. The $1.43 billion daily burn rate is also accelerating the decay of the U.S. dollar's purchasing power. Because the world sees the U.S. debt rising to fund an inconclusive war, they are slowly moving their investments away from American assets. You will experience this as a slow, grinding increase in the price of everything that is imported from overseas. The shoes on your feet and the electronics in your pocket will cost 20% more by the end of the fiscal year. Because of this move, the real danger is here, in the permanent shrinking of the American middle class. The war is not just taking lives in the desert, it is taking the surplus from your hard work and sending it into a black hole of debt. You will find that your savings account buys less every month, even if the balance on the screen stays the same. The deep state is currently prioritizing global dominance over domestic stability, and you are the one funding that choice. Because the political class cannot afford to admit the mission is failing, they will continue to escalate the spending at your expense. You will see the final phase of this economic war when the government introduces new temporary emergency taxes on your income. These taxes are rarely temporary and will likely become a permanent part of your financial reality. The war in Iran is costing the United States its financial future, but it is costing you your personal freedom to build wealth. Because every dollar spent on a drone strike is a dollar that cannot be invested in American innovation or healthcare. You will find that your local hospital is underfunded and your local school is understaffed because the money has moved to the Gulf. The fiscal siege ensures that the enemy does not have to land on our shores to disrupt your life. They only have to keep the U.S. military spending $1.43 billion a day until the domestic economy snaps. Because you are the engine of that economy, the weight of this entire conflict is resting on your shoulders. The 2026 projection shows a high probability of a long-term economic stagnation similar to the post-Vietnam era. You will be living through a decade of war inflation where prices rise faster than your wages can ever hope to catch up. The real cost of this war is the lost potential of an entire generation of Americans. Because the focus is on a desert 5,000 miles away, the problems in your neighborhood will continue to be ignored. You will notice that the quality of public services in your city is declining as federal grants are redirected to munitions plants. The war is happening in your wallet every time you tap your card at the grocery store. Because of this move, the real danger is here, in the slow-motion collapse of the lifestyle you were promised. The strategy of the adversary is to make the cost of victory more expensive than the value of the win itself. You are currently caught in that math, and the numbers are not in your favor. Because the leadership refuses to pivot, the $1.43 billion daily invoice will continue to land on your doorstep. You will eventually have to make hard choices about which bills to pay and which meals to skip. The war in Iran is the most expensive project the U.S. has ever undertaken without a clear plan for repayment. Because the debt is being pushed onto your children, you are watching their future be sold for a geopolitical stalemate. The atmospheric denial tactics used by the enemy mean that even our technological edge is being neutralized by cheaper alternatives. This forces the U.S. to stay longer and spend more just to maintain a basic level of security for shipping. You will pay for this persistence with your time, your taxes, and your peace of mind. The $1.43 billion spent today is gone forever, leaving nothing behind but a higher national debt and a more fragile economy. Because of this, the life you expected to live in 2026 is being rewritten by a conflict you cannot control. You will need to adapt to a world where expensive is the new normal and stability is a luxury of the past. The war in Iran is costing you everything you thought was guaranteed, because the invoice has arrived and it is addressed to you. The real danger is not the missiles you see on the news, but the slow death of your own financial security. The cost is real, the cost is rising, and the cost is yours to bear.